Well, I have a bit of a job here that I brought home from work. I have a customer who came in. One of the other fellows is doing the work on this truck, and the customer had a transmission put in at some other shop a couple of years ago. I have to say, I don't know what other shop that is, so I mean, as far as I can say this on camera, I think the workmanship on that was pretty poor. The transfer case was loose on the transmission. I'm surprised it took this long for it to come apart. There was some damage inside the bell housing because some of the torque converter bolts came loose. It got ugly really fast, and yeah, this customer is on the hook for quite a bit of money in repairs. One of the pieces that got damaged in the whole process was this extension housing on the back of the transmission. The thing is, this piece here, we pulled it off and sort of cleaned it up a little bit. This piece here is roughly $600 to get here in Canada, and by looking at my apologies, furnace is coming on. It is Canada, it's in the fall. The thing is, this back surface here, feeling along here, you can just feel a little bit of a groove. You can probably see it if you bring it up a little closer. There's that little groove in the very face there. The alloy of the transfer case has got to be a stronger alloy or a harder alloy of aluminum than the transmission case, simply because of the fact that the front of the transfer case looks almost pristine, yet this is all worn up. The groove, I took a measurement, it's about 13 thou deep. So what we're going to do is, the customer is totally tickled with this because we're trying to help them out a bit here. We do try to help customers out if we can. There's sometimes when parts are just beyond repair. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mount this up in the mill. I have a 3-inch face mill, indexable face mill, and we're just going to take 20 thou off, probably do it in 3 passes. Take 20 thou off of this surface, and that should give us a nice true perpendicular surface to the center line of the shaft, because right now we could put the transfer case back on, but there's less wear up here than there is down here, and that would mean that the transfer case and transmission center lines of their shafts are going to be slightly cockeyed. They're not going to line up axially. So what I'm going to do here is, there's this lip on the back here that indexes into a hole in, or the inner diameter of the rear of the transmission case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just give it a light run across to the draw file just to take the high spots off. I don't want to take really much from material, just to the bumps and dings. And then we're going to clamp it to the mill table and then do our 3 passes. As far as trusting this surface, I would trust this surface because looking at it, looks like it was this part here was all cut in one operation, and then the milling here must have been done at probably a similar time. But anyway, enough of that. I'm just going to grab a file and we're going to move over to the other bench. Okay, we're over here at the mill. Unfortunately, my other workbench is actually slightly covered in stuff. So the perennial problem of the home shop guy, eh? The lack of counter space. So now, like I say, I just want to clean up just the very top of this. Or see a few little dings and scratches and such. Oh, nice, furnace went off. So I'm just going to take the file and do a light draw filing. I really don't want to take much off. I just want to smooth it up a bit. Like I say, I can actually see as I do this some of the original machine marks when they made this thing. There. Good enough. I just wanted to take the high spots off. That did that. Our next step is I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to wipe the surface down, wipe the table down. I still have a little bit of swarf left from the last job I had here. I'm going to mount it to the table. Nice thing about this job is that I've actually got these holes that from the actual mounting surface where it mounts onto the transmission. So that should make it somewhat easier to mount it to the table. Even 2 holes will do it. I'll see if I can line up 3 just as a bit of a fluke, but I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. One of the beauties here is I have just enough space to put this on here without removing my mill vise, so I don't have to tram this guy back in after this, so that's kind of a bonus. Okay, now question is whether or not the studs will pass through the mount. Oh no, bummer. Okay, well, plan B, I'll have to figure out something else. May have to use toe clamps or something. Oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, I'll figure something out. Just give me a moment here. Okay, so I've found a way to mount this to the table. Again, I wanted to be as solid as I could. So what I wound up doing was I went to my smaller set of hold down bolts and such, because they'll still grab in the slot as long as I don't go crazy. And I can't go crazy anyway, simply because of the fact that the piece itself, I don't want to be bending the lip or cracking the lip. Bring the camera down here a little bit to look. So this lip here, as I say, this isn't the register. The registering surface is underneath on the that diameter I was showing earlier. So what I need to do is I need to clamp it down. So I got this way, using the smaller bolts, I can actually slightly work to either side of the slot a little bit. It's still going to grab. I can actually get three bolts on it now. Now to make sure, just want to make sure it's sit down here. I'll snug all 3 a little bit at a time. There we go. Again, I can't go too crazy because I don't want to bend it, crack it, or otherwise distort it. But now, that's nice and solid. Again, we're only taking about 15-20 thou off the face. So now, what we'll do is I'll bring the camera up and we'll get set up and start taking our first cut. We'll touch off. I'm going to bring it down, or bring it to the corner, touch off, and then we'll start working our way back and forth. I still haven't gotten my digital readout set up for this thing yet, so I'm still working off of the graduated collar. That's another project that's going to take a while to get done. So, looking forward to having it done though. Okay, time to touch off. I tried touching off once before, but I forgot one step. So I'm going to go a little further in here. I'm just going to touch off. You just have a little bit of drag on the quill with the brake, or the quill stop, or not quill stop, the quill lock. There we go, right where we were before. My dial on the quill just says 84 thou. So let's back this off of here. Again, I got to be careful of my mill vise. So 84 thou. That says 94. Or it's not 94. What am I saying? Okay, so it's just a relative thing. All right, we're now 20 thousandths depth. Give it a liberal coating of WD-40. Try to find a decent cutting speed. Let's move forward a little bit. Gotta lock my Y. the downsides about actually running a video camera while you're working. If you screw something up, you can't hide it. Like I said, this machine doesn't have the rigidity of a large industrial machine, so kind of have to go easy on it. Seems to be cutting okay. Okay, lock off our X. Got a little bit of the handyman's secret weapon over the hole in the center. I'm going to try to keep as much of this out of the bearing as I can. I suppose we could probably pop it out and clean it if we needed to, but no, I'll help it. I don't want to. Have to, need to. Yeah, with these interrupted cuts, as long as I don't feed too fast, as long as I'm not feeding too quickly, it actually is not rattling too badly. But again, the pieces inside the head here that aren't the strong, aren't the most solid. There we go. And my hand over it, and yeah, even where it looks like it's, I don't know what the surface finish looks like in the camera yet. So yeah, the surface finish here is actually remarkably good. It may look a little scratchy in the video there. I'm not sure, but I mean, I run my fingernail across that. That's actually quite smooth. So yeah, I'm going to take this out and take it out, clean it up, and then we'll be back over on the workbench there with the deburring tool to take the edges off. One thing that makes me feel good about this as well, there was a slight chamfer on the inside of this hole here, this journal, or not journal, but this cylinder, if you will. There was a chamfer on the edge, and what I notice is that there's about the same, there's maybe a 30-second left all the way around that I can see all the way around it. So that's kind of a visual visual confirmation that I was at least on target with that. But the edges here, there are a few little sharpish edges. I'm just going to quickly buzz around with the Noga. One thing about this job that I have, I'm an automotive mechanic at a dealership nearby. One nice thing is that I'm fairly close to work as far as work and home. But again, I brought this job home from work, so it gives me a chance to play in the garage, and it gives me good fodder for video production. I mean, realistically speaking, there are a lot of projects I'd like to make as far as homemade tooling for things in here, because that way it makes it a little bit more affordable when you can actually make some of your own jigs and such versus having to buy everything. I mean, don't get me wrong, I quite like the people over at KMS Tools here in Edmonton nearby. They're actually really nice people. In fact, it was funny, the last time I was in there, I brought my son. My son's, oh, well, he's 3 months old now. It was funny because I walked in and the ladies behind the counter were just thought he was the coolest thing, so it was quite nice actually. They would happily take care of him and keep him entertained while I was shopping. I mean, I know who they are because I've been there enough times. But yeah, total shout out definitely to the local KMS Tools. I quite like them there. We're now perpendicular. This face is perpendicular to the centerline axis of the output shaft, which is what we wanted, because otherwise our transfer case and our transmission were going to be off center or off to each other axially. And the surface finish, as I say, I'm actually quite tickled at how well that 3-inch face mill works. It's an Iscar. I got it on surplus out of a surplus sale place on eBay. It was an awesome deal. I got it for $60. Bought a few more inserts for it out of a place in Germany, which kind of surprised me. They were one of the more reasonable deals for tools for one of those. And so yeah, it's one of those things where I don't use it very often, but it does a really nice job on aluminum like this. Again, seeing it from the camera, it might look a little harsher than it actually is. But yeah, so give this one here a quick clean off. And there we go. That just saved the customer about 600 bucks. So anyway, that'll be enough for this project here. I know it was just a short, quick one, just some plain basic machining. Nothing really, nothing really huge as far as complex is concerned. Just, part of the focus of my channel is just simple projects for, making things work. Thanks for watching. Please, by all means, subscribe. I know this, I'm not really doing this for a living, but it's really reassuring to see who actually watches my videos. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and yeah, I'll see you on the next video.